God's a love that's divine, yours and it's mine like the sun.
Well, my talk for today is titled, Life is Change, Growth is Optional. Choose wisely. Change. Now, speaking of change, I was in a line at Safeway recently, and I overheard the people behind me, and one person said, I had a really, really difficult day today. And the other person said, well, what do you mean? And the person said, well, I put $3 in the change machine, and look, I'm still me. Oh, I love the levels of that one. Helen Keller is a wonderful image and figure of overcoming difficulties. She was isolated into the two-dimensional world of touch and smell at the age of 19 months. And she has gone on to inspire millions of people with her journey. And by dealing with her physical challenges in a way that she was still able to live an extraordinary life. She wrote, when one door of happiness closes, another opens. But often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us. Change is hard, yes? Ever notice? Most of us resist it. Yet great change typically marks every great accomplishment. Something has to change. In every movie we see, every book we read, often the hero or heroine has to undergo some kind of a transformation in order to make a change, to adapt to a new circumstance, and to become heroic in that circumstance. It seems to me that the most powerful spiritual transformations that we have come from change. You've probably heard the saying, change your thinking, change your life. Brian Tracy said that. Unity has adopted it, and Science of Mind has adopted it. And really, it's a foundational teaching of us. Our very basic teachings are about changing our thoughts, changing our beliefs, changing our feelings, so that we can connect with that essence and truth of who we are, so that we can rise up into our highest potential and live from that potential. Yes. And I suspect that's why you're here. Because you recognize that your spiritual essence recognizes and knows the truth of who you are. And so you follow these teachings because these teachings help you to formulate and have these systems, these ideas grow in your consciousness so you can express the divinity that you are. Leo Tolstoy is believed to have said this. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks about changing themselves. And I think that's interesting, and I think that's different for us, because our whole belief system is about that, and I believe that we attract people into this way of thinking because we are all about change, and we're all about connection, and we're all about spirit and expressing it. Research shows that even with the possibility of death, of heart disease or heart attack or stroke or addiction or cancer, most people will not make changes to increase or improve their lifestyle. That to me is just amazing. Most people will continue doing the same things they've always done. How many people do you hear about that have lung cancer and continue to smoke? Not to this one. So why do people resist change, even if they know that it's good for them? And I think the truth of it is, we as human beings are afraid of change. We're afraid to do something differently. We're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid to leave a job that's not satisfying. We're afraid, really, I think, in a lot of ways, to change our thinking, to change our beliefs, because we don't know what's on the other side of those changes. Also, I think that our current suffering that we might have has a bit of comfort to it. Some people relish, and I know it's not any of you, but some people relish in the idea of being the victim or being the martyr, and they find power in that. You know, oh, I just can't do that. I'm living my life for other people. You know, I don't need to be happy. I don't need to be fulfilled. And some of these values kind of underline our consciousness and have worked themselves into our belief system so much that we don't try to make a difference. Also, change might require adjusting or eliminating a routine. I know one of my favorite things to do in the morning is to sit with my cup of coffee and read my email in front of my computer. I love that. It's an everyday habit of mine. I can't wait to get up and make that first cup of coffee. Anybody else? And then I can't wait to sit down in front of my computer and enjoy that good cup of Starbucks coffee. What did you think I was going to say? Suck it up, yeah? I love that first of coffee in the morning. And what I'm trying to do is establish a new habit of exercise in the morning. Yeah, to actually get myself away from my computer and out of my pajamas with the bunny rabbit feet and to walk up and down the Kumalani Hill. And I literally have to grab myself by the shirt, by the scruff of my shirt, and to pull myself outside to do that walk. But I know I feel so much better when I do that. It's like it changes my whole day. Sometimes we have to change our old habits. Sometimes we have to pick up a new habit that's more productive. And change can sometimes cause an emotional reaction. Because I can get attached to the way that I do things. Yeah, there's a great story that I like about a man who had a cat, and every day he would take his cat out on a leash and tie it to a tree out in front of his house, and then he would feed the cat. And his family and his friends would all come over, and they would be a part of this routine. And then the man died. And so his family and friends would continue this pattern because they know that he got so much joy out of it that they would come over every day and take the cat out on a leash and tie it to a tree until the cat died. And then his family and friends got together and they thought, why did we do this for so long? Well, because Harry did it, and Harry got such joy out of it that we thought we should continue it. So sometimes we continue the habits that we have and don't make changes because we're emotionally attached to the habit itself. And this idea shocked me. Neuroscience is now purporting that the brain is wired to resist change. Our brains are wired to do the same thing over and over again. In essence, we have lazy brains. And it's just the nature of the way that our brains are created. It's nothing that there's no blame in this. It just is the way it is. Our brains like to do the same thing over and over again. You know, go the same route home from work or the same route to the store. And our brains just like that easiness of that. And our brains don't like change also because it requires more energy to do something different, to change the way we do things. Interesting, isn't it? That we're wired to be lazy. And so the gift of this, of course, is that we can change that, and I'll tell you how in just a few minutes. George Bernard Shaw wrote, "Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." I've learned that life is a persistent teacher. How about you? It seems like, for me, if something comes up for me, and maybe it's about forgiving somebody else, as an example, forgiving somebody's behavior, and if I don't forgive that person's behavior, forgive myself for judging that person and forgiving that person's behavior, then what I've noticed that everybody that shows up presents me with the same opportunity to heal myself and to heal them. It's like the universe, it just knows, doesn't it? It's like there's a vibration that we're a part of that attracts to us exactly what we need to know over and over and over and over again. Until we finally decide, you know what, the way the world looks to me, this must be my issue, and I get to change it. Yay! How about that? Isn't that great? Are you excited? Not so much, huh? But the world is a reflection. What we see out here is a reflection of what's going on in here. Woohoo! That's the good news. And the good news. I've got a couple stories I'd like to share with you, and I got these from Oprah. She gave them to me personally. So this is about a man whose name is Caron Butler. And his road to success wasn't an easy one. He grew up on the streets of Racine, Wisconsin. He says that he was arrested 15 times before he was 15. His role models were drug dealers and pimps. And he told Oprah in 2005 that it wasn't until he found himself in a maximum security detention center that he discovered his love for basketball. It was like, I could do this naturally. I throw the ball at the hoop and it goes in. I have this magic touch. But he says the real turning point happened for him when he spent 2 weeks in isolation. And he said, in those 2 weeks, I wrote letters over and over and over to my mother. And then finally I realized, and I wrote her a letter, and I said, Mother, I'm never going to hurt you again. If I ever can get out of here, I promise you, I will never do anything to hurt you again. After his time in prison, he went back to high school, finished high school. He became one of the stars on the basketball team. Somebody saw him playing basketball and recruited him, and he became a professional basketball player, playing for the Sacramento Kings. Went on to make over $1 million a year playing basketball because he changed his mind. He decided to live his life differently. Another woman whose name is Jackie was following her dreams and working on living in Egypt when she decided to take a weekend trip to Athens, Greece. Things took a deadly turn on her flight home. The plane was hijacked, and she was shot in close range in the face. She was then thrown from the plane onto the tarmac where she laid for 5 hours. And she says, as I laid there, I prayed. And somehow I knew that I was going to live, that I was going to make it through this challenge. It's like I felt the presence of God, and that presence told me, you're going to make it. Just hang on. And she did survive, though as a result, she had impaired vision and a loss of her short-term memory. But she says, my life changed when I decided to forgive those people who hurt me. And in the moment that I forgave them, my life changed. And I can now live a full and happy life without resentment or anger or fear. So how can we use change in our lives for beneficial reasons to experience the truth of who we are? The first thing we can do is to acknowledge change when it's happening. Whether it's a huge change or a small change, just to recognize, wow, change is happening. I can feel it. It's something is different is happening. And the second thing we can do is to embrace it and to know that change very often brings positive results. Have anybody noticed that? That many times, maybe all the time, change happens and we grow spiritually from that change. Because we get to embody a new way of thinking and being, and if we can embrace that change, we open ourselves to the fullest experience of it that it can have in our lives. To embrace it, to welcome it, to say, hey, okay, I'm going to work with this. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to become a better person. And the third thing that we can do is to have compassion for ourselves. Recognizing and remembering that we have lazy brains and that change is difficult because we get to change those patterns in our brains so that we can expand what we can do. And how do we do that? We choose wisely. We choose wisely what our thoughts are. We choose what our feelings are. We choose the things that we say. We say positive statements of affirmation. I believe, and neuroscientists are finding that what we declare to be true actually builds new pathways in our brains. And by knowing and affirming and believing and standing in that truth, we actually build new routes of thought in our brains. And as we do that, we live differently. When we believe differently, we act differently, and the universe responds to us differently. So choose wisely. And the fifth thing that we can do is to appreciate our strength and our wisdom. Even in the midst of changing circumstances, to appreciate yourself. And say, wow, I can do this. I remember the last time I had a change, a challenge that I had to go through, and I remember that I was able to get through it. And I can get through this. And I can appreciate myself. I can love myself because I know that I am a strong, powerful expression of God, and I can make it through this in a powerful way. And I can use my example as a way of transforming other lives by being the truth, by expressing the truth, by living the truth, by loving myself and appreciating myself and giving thanks for myself, for my ability to make changes. We know what we focus on expands, yes? So when we focus on the fact that we have a fabulous ability to change our minds, it builds those pathways in our brain so that we can continue to expand and to grow our consciousness and our experience. In 2007, music producer John Diaz told Oprah Winfrey a story that she said she would never forget. A few years earlier, John was on a flight from Taiwan when things went horribly wrong. The plane that he was on had 2 collisions, and one of the collisions opened a hole in the fuselage, and jet fuel poured into the plane, instantly igniting the inside of the plane, instantly igniting people in the plane. He says he stood there and watched as people were consumed by fire. And he said if it wasn't for his instincts to pick up a leather carry-on bag and hold it between himself and the fire, that he certainly would have died. And he was able to exit the plane. But what he said he saw before he left that plane was amazing. He said, I saw people's auras before they were totally consumed. I saw their auras, and some were bright and some were dim. And I had the thought of, wow, maybe that's how they were spiritually. I don't know, but it occurred to him. And he said, from that moment on, I decided that I'm going to brighten my light, that I'm going to be a strong aura of light wherever I am, to reflect that truth, to live, to be the light of the world. Today, John is left with severe pain from the crash and has to use a walker. But he says he'll never forget the lesson that he learned that day. To be the light. To connect with our spiritual selves, his spiritual selves. And the story is to remind us the truth of who we are. That we are light. That we impact the world. As we sang earlier today, we are the world. The way we are, the way we live, the things that we say, the thoughts that we have, the love that we share is the way that we are the world. Life is change. Growth is optional? No, I don't think so. Growth is mandatory. Choose wisely. And so it is. And I invite you to close your eyes. And take a deep breath. Giving thanks for this opportunity to live in these bodies. The opportunity to shine our light. And I invite you, if it's comfortable, to touch your heart. And to breathe into this connection. To feel the energy of life that is moving through you. And to give thanks for the very essence of God that is expressing as you in this lifetime, in this moment, in this time in history. Give thanks to yourself for all that you are. Give thanks for how wise you are. For the changes that you have made. For the decisions to make a change. And give thanks for the beautiful spacesuit that you have chosen to go through this life with. Your body, your mind. You are a perfect expression of spirit. Spirit is expressing as you because this is how spirit expresses itself. And so let's pause for just a few moments. And in this place, I invite you to reach into your spiritual nature and give thanks for your life, for this journey, for all that you are. And let's take just a few moments. And gently bring your awareness and your attention back to your breath. What a blessing you are. How beautiful you are. Thank you, loving Spirit, for the gift of life. Breathing in and breathing out. Gently becoming aware of the light that you are and the light that is in this room. And I invite you to slowly Open your eyes whenever you're ready.
Where I live, there are rainbows with light and the laughter of morning, and starry, starry